Hash House and Circle Up.
Welcome to On, the Hash House Harrier podcast for interviews, history, and stories. I'm your host, Ra. So we're back for part 2 with Big Mac, 20 more years of hashing history.
Today on the podcast, we are in Leith. If you don't know, that is in Scotland, near Edinburgh. It's morning in Toronto and afternoon there. Welcome, longtime hasher, Big Mac. What about up through then your retirement year in Cape Town?
Right.
Had there been run-ins with the police, white powder events, any of those things happen along the way?
I was trying to think, was that in Dhaka? Delhi. I think we had an issue with the military in Dhaka, maybe laying a trail too close to a military compound. At this point in time, I thought that I really was retiring early. I thought this was it. I'm now going to put my feet up and that's it. So the kids were still quite young at university and things, but we decided that because we all speak Spanish and we like the weather and the food, the UK was not the place for us to retire to. So we decided to retire to southern Spain, but carefully avoiding the expat enclaves that are in that part of the world. So we chose to live inland, up in the hills behind Malaga. And there I discovered the Mijas hash. The time now is 2003. The Mijas hash was quite small. It's grown to something much bigger. And was run by a guy then called El Cid, I think. And other names we can come to. So I began running with them. But no sooner had I retired to Spain and bought the house, I was headhunted by a company who had heard about my experiences in India and Bangladesh and decided I was perfect for what they needed because they had operations in both of those places as well. So I took another job. But this time it was unaccompanied, so no family with me. So my rotation was 6 months in that location and then 6 weeks, I should say, 6 weeks out, 2 weeks off. And I was sent back to Dhaka. So having said my fond farewells to all the friends in Dhaka several years previously, even we had 2 cats that we gave to a lady there as we left. I turned up in the expat club on my first night back in Dhaka, met same lady who said, by the way, people hadn't even noticed I'd gone. This was the most amazing. They said they hadn't seen me for a while. I said 3 years, or more in fact. And this lady, she said, I'm leaving tomorrow. Would you like your cats back? So I just picked up when I left off with the hashing career. I had to recall all my farewell T-shirts because they were no longer appropriate for people to wear. I had another T-shirt made announcing my return. And I got myself back on the committee and got seriously back into hashing again there. So basically, I was now hashing 6 weeks in Dhaka. And then my 2 weeks off, I was hashing in Spain, and I kept that up for the next couple of years. And then the company I was with transferred me to India, initially to Chennai in the south of India, Madras as it was known, where I did some hashing. But then the company relocated north, as was the plan, back into Delhi. So I then again returned to Delhi. There were 2 hashes there, and I found myself in the position of GM of the capital hash for a period. I took over from a guy called Zebedee and his wife, Florence. They were enthusiastic hashers. I don't think they did much hashing outside of India. That was their home hash, really, but they've retired too. They live here in this part of the world. Still see them. But yeah, I did. So between Dhaka and I clocked up more than 250 with each of those hashes. Yeah. And in the meantime, I was clocking up runs in Spain on my time off. And there was a spin-off hash called the Malaga hash. As is typical, I think hashes do tend to divide those who like the drinking, those who like the running, and we have a falling out. And I think that was the story in Mijas, between Mijas and Malaga. Again, as usual, there was an overlap. People who didn't give a shit. I ran with both.
Mijas is a well-known hash traveling with the red hats and Sir Flaky and Stephanie.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I know them well.
Who were some of the people that were elderly then, maybe just ending hashing when you were around there?
In Spain or in
any of those places? Somebody that some of the old folks would recognize, and some of the other people may have heard names.
There was a very distinguished Sikh gentleman in India who was known as the Commander. He had a military career, a naval career. A lot of these people served from British times, or certainly strong. They were more British than the Brits in some respects, and observing all the traditions. So he's one name that I certainly remember. And who else would there be? Rail Jerker. Now, Rail Jerker was a Bangladeshi hasher, who hashed all around that part of the world. Okay.
Rail Jerker.
Yeah.
Did you get on some of his train journeys?
Yeah. And I have a beer mat that he made for his 1,000th run or something. It's a porcelain tile that he gave us all as a commemorative event. Yeah.
You've crisscrossed with so many hashing cultures and been a part of it. A lot of people in the politics, like the politics of hash splitting. Your attitude seems to be, I just want to hash, so I'll just go with everybody.
Sure.
What about the beer choices? Did you see that change? When did things like that change? And then the name, the circles, the singing, the beer over this time, do you have any impressions of how it's changed and evolved? When did wine come in? Was that a Mijas thing? Yeah.
Was it even a Mijas thing? At the time I was hashing in Spain, I don't think we offered wine at the end of the run. I think it was mostly beer and soft drinks, and even the soft drinks were hard to find. What is interesting, of course, was in Dhaka in particular, getting supplies of beer was always a problem for the hash because we had no right to the beer. So we did have to rely on embassies diverting some of their quota to the hash, on people having, again, diplomats in particular, having access to stores that were allowed to sell them beer. So occasionally we struggled to get beer. The beer, of course, we couldn't always choose what beer we were going to get there, but it was what was available. But most often was Tiger beer from Singapore. That became a beer of choice, I think, for the hash. In India, we didn't have that problem. So but we always on the lookout for sponsorship from breweries. So we did manage to get Kingfisher to sponsor us, and so some of the big events. Of course, in those countries, it was both India and Bangladesh, and I'm going to say even Chile, I think this was the case. The other useful person to have was somebody who worked for a removal company, because a lot of expats were coming in and out. These companies did like to stay in the good books of the expats, in the hope that they would get favored with your move. And one of the ways that mutual back scratching was accomplished was they would be the people who would deliver the beer and serve the beer in the circles. So we never had that problem of storing it and somebody having to use their garage and drive it to that was always outsourced to a willing removals company. And in fact, in both India and Bangladesh, there's, what was his name? His real name's Henry Jacob. And what's his hash name? Oh, I don't know. But anyway, there's a guy called Rajiv in India who also still does it, I think. Yeah, I know he does do that. The first time I saw wine in the cool box was probably here in Edinburgh. I started running in Edinburgh when we bought the house in Spain. So I'm now retired from Shell, 2003. For all of my expat life, we had retained a property in Scotland. And actually, I'm going to mention way back in the 70s, I ran with a group called the Dundee Tearaways, who were hash house harriers, who have been and gone and never been since But we kept the property in Scotland, and because our kids went to boarding school and then university here. So we wanted to have a foothold in the property market. When I joined this other company I mentioned and went back to India and Bangladesh, we sold our property in Scotland. I bought a property in Edinburgh because their head office happened to be in Edinburgh. So that was when I first came to Edinburgh, 2004, and I started hashing here in the times that I was coming here on business trips, and occasionally I would split my time between Spain and Edinburgh. So I hooked up with both Edinburgh and the Newtown hash and started clocking up runs with them. So that's, 17 years ago? Yep. 18 years ago, practically.
So who were the people there in charge of the hashing in Scotland? Do you remember?
In Edinburgh, of course, there's a guy called Monsoon Drain, who I think, I still see him. He's still around. Good friend of mine. We play bridge occasionally. He was certainly a big wheel in organizing on the hash here. He did haberdashery for years. He worked for Coates Payton, who were a thread and company. So he had links into that trade. And all around the world. He'd been a career expat in Mexico, Italy, somewhere out in the Far East.
Way down in Barcelona, yeah.
Yeah. And so Monsoon Drain was one name that there was the RA was in the early days was Hoggy, who does RAing up. He's a guest RA occasionally. He's moved south. Okay. I know I can give you lots of names, but I don't know I don't know if they're of their history.
That'll pique people's ears up when they hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
To know that some of those people, yeah, some people know people, they just know they've had a long history. Some of them been on here, some of them haven't. When did you get out of Spain? Are you still two households?
No, we're not. You've heard of Brexit, I'm sure, and the life plan was to stay in Spain. We were tax resident living there full time. We kept the property in Scotland as a sort of holiday home. But the plan was to basically stay in Spain until we were old and decrepit and really needed to come back to the UK. But then Brexit came along and it just didn't sit comfortably with me. If Britain's in the EU, then I'm treated the same as any other EU citizen would be in Spain. If Britain's not in the EU, then I may not be. And that had implications, as far as I was concerned, for tax and for healthcare and exchange rate movements, because my pensions were in sterling and I'm living in a Eurozone country. Having said that, there was an ulterior motive, of course, because by now the Micromax had arrived on the scene. So we were, the grandchildren they needed their grandparents a little more. So yeah, that we factored that in. In 2017, we made the decision to sell up in Spain and come back to Scotland, to Leith. Leith was somewhere that we had never known until I mentioned buying the property in Edinburgh when I joined this Edinburgh-based company, but it was actually in much closer to the centre of Edinburgh. But then when I really retired, or nearly retired, because I did have a third career after my second career, I sold that property and bought a much smaller flat here in Leith, basically as somewhere I could lock and leave. And that's when I discovered how delightful Leith is. It's a port town, it's the port city attached to Edinburgh, but it's very different in character. So when we retired, when we sold up in Spain, it just made sense to come to Leith and not even consider going anywhere else. We didn't give it a second thought. I just had to wait for the right property to come on the market here. And then I just threw lots of money at it until the guy gave in and sold it to me. But my third career, which I haven't yet mentioned, was I was sitting in Spain, fully retired. And in 2013, I got a phone call from a guy saying, Mike, we've got a bit of an issue out in Cameroon in West Africa. And your name has come up as somebody that can maybe go out and sort it for us. Are you interested? And I'd spent my entire career in Shell dodging West Africa. Nigeria was the place you didn't really want to be sent to. I'm now in my sort of mid-60s. I was beginning to regret not having had that experience. Cameroon seemed rather nicer than Nigeria. So I said, sure, I'll go out and work in Cameroon. So I did that for a couple of years. Now I was in Douala, which is on the ocean side. And the capital of Cameroon is a place called Yaoundé, which is up in the hills. Douala has a hellish climate. It is wet, humid. It's about the third wettest place in the world. And yeah, I did running there with my bodyguard following me in the car, amusingly. But I would try to conspire to be in Yaoundé as many weekends as I could so I could do the hash up there. And again, that was a surprising hash. It's because it was mostly locals. There aren't that many.
Did they do the stuff in English or French? Or?
In both, because it's Anglo-French. It's more French than English up in Yaoundé. Douala is more English, is more Anglophile, and Yaoundé is more Francophile up there. But yeah, I enjoyed the hashing up there as well, actually. They had a few strange encounters there with fire ants and other natural hazards. Forgot to mention the snake pit that I laid a trail through in Bangladesh unknowingly. I'll just throw that in.
That's great. Did you ever get hurt on trail?
The only time I was hurt was in Cape Town. I tripped over a tree root, scraped my knee quite badly, and then it got badly infected. And so, yeah, that was it. I can't really claim it was that bad. In Spain, I very nearly had to give up hashing because I developed pain in my left knee, such that I could barely walk. I just basically, I wore out my left knee. I went to see a surgeon in Spain and he did some MRI scans and x-rays and he said to me, do you run? And I said, yeah. He said, how long have you been doing it? I said, a long time. And he said, that's the problem. He said, you've basically worn it out and you got meniscus damage. And after that first consultation, he didn't actually offer to do anything about it. He looked at me and said, you're old, maybe you should be taking it easy. And that preyed on my mind. And I thought, this is not right. I'm not going to accept this. So I went back and demanded a second opinion. And he said, we could maybe try an arthroscopy, go in, microsurgery, clean it out. And the other knee wasn't looking too in good shape either. Anyway, to cut long story short, the surgery was a massive success. And after a period of recovering, I'm back running and pain-free. And the advice I've been given is to keep running, because if I stop, then I might have problems. That's what keeps me going.
That's great. Yeah, I do a podcast with competitive runners from 50 years ago, running in the 70s too. We all go through these transitions of competing or running at a different level. Did you move back in the pack? I assume you were a front runner.
Yeah. I mean, I would never describe myself as a front runner. I would certainly be somewhere up there, but not a fully fledged FRB. I'm not a walker, and I'm dreading the day that I might have to downgrade to that status. So I'm going to keep running as long as I can. And I'm inspired by a guy called Mijas here in Edinburgh, who's 84, and I still can't keep up with him. And so he's my hero. I still like the trails to be 8 to 10 kilometers. Anything less than that, I feel being shortchanged. And I do try and run most of them, but definitely now at a speed that is much reduced compared to what it used to be. I laid the trail on this Wednesday here in Edinburgh. I'm still doing lots of trail laying too. That's fun because you get to see the city, and when you're out, or the countryside, when you're out somewhere driving or something, you've always got one eye thing on the thing. Now, wonder where that road goes, and could I use that in a trail?
That's great. Are you running circles there? Are you RAing?
Yeah, I'm going to be RA next week. Yeah, and in the Edinburgh Hash, which is the Sunday run out of town runs, I was RA for a year. I told them that I didn't really want any more committee positions, but like many hashes, we're finding it a little bit more difficult to recruit new members and get people to do their share of the trail laying and stuff. So it falls to fewer and fewer of us to do more and more of the work. But I don't mind. I'm retired, but I think we just need to do something about that. We need a strategy to get some. And there are hashes that are succeeding. Aberdeen hash has got a much younger cohort, so we're trying to understand from them. The Scottish hashes are very close. We have lots of joint events with Aberdeen, Glasgow, with these three hashes, and there's one up in Elgin in Scotland. All of us are on Harrier Central, much to Opie and Tuna Melt's delight. They're coming here next week, so we got hash royalty in town.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, I interviewed the two of them together on a podcast, and they were drinking, so that might be fun to listen to. They forgot it was being recorded. That's when I was in Speyside for the UK Nash Hash there, maybe in '99. I have an Aberdeen shirt for a post-Cyprus run that they put on. Cairo put on one, Aberdeen put on one, but I haven't been up there much. I went to the Fringe once. That might have been '99 on the way to Speyside. Yeah.
Okay.
Condom Man, a Milton Keynes guy who spent his life at. Do you know Condom Man?
No, but I know some Milton Keynes hashers, so I probably do know him, but I'm just not.
Yeah.
No.
He was born in northern Rhodesia, and he spent most of his life from Somalia down to Zanzibar and things like that. But he's back in Milton Keynes now. He had a tiny little flat right in. There was, I think, 9 of us on the floor during the Fringe, but I think it had room for one. Yeah.
Okay.
That was great. Yeah, this is great stuff. Yeah, have a look at your list if there's anything else you want to go. I mean, we could do this forever, but
yeah, I think I've probably covered most of it here. Let's see.
Oh, good.
Oh, swimming hashes. In Dhaka, there was so much water in Dhaka that quite often we would end up in it or under it. There was one memorable occasion where we were required to, I thought, wade across this water, but in fact, it reached the point where we had to swim. And there was one guy who, hang on, my wife's coming to ask me something. What is it?
June.
Oh, 22nd June 2002. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
12th.
of June. Oh, my birthday. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there was one guy who was next to me who got into trouble. And I suddenly realized he couldn't swim. So basically I ended up saving his life. Sounds more exciting than it was because the water was just deeper than him. But hey, you can drown in a puddle of water, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The men's hash. Did you encounter any all single gender clubs in your travels?
Or the night runners.
Oh,
of
course. Yeah.
Yeah. Would be one more. No, I think that would be the only one. Yeah. Yeah. Can't think.
Was
of
that a hard and fast rule with them?
Yeah. It definitely was. In Delhi, we seemed to spin off a whole bunch of hashes. We had the two principal hashes there were the capital hash and the Delhi hash. Again, I think there'd been a split at some point in the past, but we coexisted fairly amicably. And then there was a pussy hash. Yeah, so the ladies got their own thing, but they did invite select men to join them occasionally. And then there was a party hash. Now, there was a guy there called Love Chicken. Have you heard of that name?
I don't
Love
know.
Chicken.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've heard it, but I don't know.
yeah, he was a real character. He had been a hasher, but his love of the bottle exceeded his love of hashing. And he actually drank himself to death, but he was
Wow.
quite a guy. And we had a great array there called Futpucker. She was Croatian. She really was good. RAs, I think, good RAs they make a hash, certainly in the modern times. And we got a very good one here, actually, called Used to Be Nice in Edinburgh. She's pretty sparkling. I know you interviewed Mega Soras the other day because she was the one that bent my ear this Wednesday. And she's pretty decent as well as an RA. Yep. No, I think I don't think there's anything on my list. My wife was just telling me that the Bocaron hash, which is the Malaga hash, was actually founded on my birthday, the 12th of June, 2002. So it's a bit of hash history I didn't even know myself.
Yeah. You mentioned the yellow paper folded things. Have you sent, can you spare one? Are you going to send one off to the Hash Museum?
I may have done. I no longer have the paper copies, but I've scanned a few interesting ones. So who should I send that to? To what's his name?
Hazakashi's collecting everything.
All right, I'll send it to Hazakashi.
And I took over halfmind.com from when we used to have web-based directories. Flying Booger set up halfmind.com for the American club list. So I have room for keep that website alive and have digital license plate photos and tags and t-shirts. Not an extensive t-shirt that's been covered, but I was thinking of putting up original scans of some of the elderly write-ups. So I'll take it and I'll pass everything on.
I'll pass it on.
I'll pass it on. Yeah.
We had Hazakashi here just a few weeks ago, actually. He ran with us. He seems to be, an annual visitor here, a bit like a sort of migrating seabird or something. Yeah, we see him from time to time.
When I took over HalfMind, something I had been doing for a travel agent and then a .com billionaire was tracking travel. And for 10 years, I built these websites, which has now evolved into a more proper travel tracking thing where you can just click your phone that figures out where you are and tracks all the places you've been. But I created Where Have You Hashed? And it's events and countries. And Higgins was headed to 100 and Hazakashi decided to get there first. So he was the first person. There's now 4 people who have clicked over 100 countries they've hashed in, and Hazakashi's blown through the roof. 130. There's a list there. Commercial Whale out of the UK.
Commercial Whale,
and music out of Key West, along with Higgins and Hazakashi. And there's a couple people closing in on 100 fast. They're up in the high 90s.
Yeah. I've got a friend here called Blind Doug.
I'm planning on tracking him down for an interview.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure he's up for it. He still has got enough fire in his belly to go off and do silly things. I'm a little more cautious these days. But he heads off to the Far East. He did hash out in Indonesia, but that's the part of the world that he'd like to spend his time in. So he does all the Chinese, Malaysian, Indonesian, that side of the world. Whereas I don't know that Far East part that well. I've hashed once in Indonesia. I was there under false pretenses. I was there because of my Scottishness. I was also, in addition to being the GM in Delhi, I was also the chieftain of the Caledonian Society and got invited by a guy called George Benton to the Jakarta Silver Jubilee Highland Games. But as they had a hash to commemorate that as well. So a 10K.
Bent one.
That's him.
George.
Yep.
I have recorded an interview with him. It's on.
Really? Where is he these days? Because I did see him in the streets of Edinburgh about 5 years ago. Is he here?
Boy, I don't remember. It was over a year and a half ago I talked to him, but he's in the UK.
Yeah, okay. It's probably here. I lost touch with him, but
he is. I think he's down the road. I think he said he was just down the road from the Penguin.
Oh, okay. Okay. So he might be somewhere,
It might be Aberdeenish.
yeah, between Aberdeen and Edinburgh, maybe Dundee or something. I can't remember what his home city is. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
I lived in the Arab world, Egypt for 15 years and
Mhm.
I've been in Toronto for almost 20 years now. But I did the area around Egypt, everything within an hour,
Right.
hashing in Athens and Cyprus and Turkey
Mhm.
and everything. And then I've been going to the inner hashes for 30 years. I MC a lot of the inner hashes, right?
Right.
So plugged into that, but I didn't know because I was kind of isolated a little bit. Not that many people were coming through Egypt in the
Yeah.
80s and
Yeah.
90s. So we had visitors, but not from the hashing world of Asia and everything. But I've hashed a lot with the Jakarta
Yeah.
guys and I do the outstation runs with Froggy and the Penguin. They let me go on those.
Yeah. One of the things that I try to remind everybody, of course, is the origins of hashing and Gisbert in particular, and his remember him, particularly on his anniversary. And I'm just staggered how many hashes I go to around the world and they've no idea.
The weirdest one was it must have been before Sister Michael stopped there in Holy Land Hash,
Yeah.
Tel Aviv. They thought they were the only hash in the world when we did a joint hash with them.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was in the early 90s. It wasn't like the internet hadn't
Mhm.
really come out yet.
Mhm.
But yeah, that history is a
The
passion, of course,
genealogy.
of several people.
Yeah.
Bill Panton doing the genealogy,
Yeah.
and Neptunus's museum now is in KL,
Yeah.
is really becoming a major.
You talked about your Aberdeen T-shirt, and I wager that was probably made in Bangladesh because I just we still haven't remembered his name. Anyway, Sharir. Who are he?
Yeah.
No, no,
Okay.
not
Wait a
false.
minute. I got to find it because if he listens to this, he's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
upset we couldn't come up.
Anyway, yeah.
Let's see. Sharif Hader.
Yeah, Sharif, that's it. Yeah. Like Ringmaster, is it?
Yeah, it is. It is
Okay. Yeah.
Ringmaster. Okay.
Right.
Ringmaster.
Okay. He was making stuff for Aberdeen, and of course, 95% of it would be shipped to Aberdeen, and 5% would be held back and just given away in country. So my hash wardrobe, if you like, includes a few things that I really shouldn't have, but I got through that back door. But I was wearing a pair of Aberdeen hash shorts a few months ago, and the Aberdeen hash, it might have been Tom, asked me where, he said the new Aberdeen haberdasher said, "Oh my God, where did you get those from?" And I said, "Bangladesh." He said, "We've been trying to remember where they were made, but I can put you in touch with the guy who made them."
Oh, yeah. I have several Dhaka t-shirts just as I got as gifts from Sharif and Phantom and Shadow. When I'd see them at Interhash, they would just say,
Mhm.
"Here, you can," you're
Yep.
because they had some spectacular
Oh,
tigers across the.
I've got that one. Yep. Yeah. It was the guy, we had a guy called Dr. Zhivago. Did you hear about him? He was the equivalent of Jim Raper, I think, in Bangladesh, a rather wealthy businessman stroke criminal who would sponsor the hash and smoked long, big cigars most of the time. But no, I've got some of those T-shirts that you're describing, just meters away from where I'm sitting right now. I've got a big box of them, but I thinned out so much my
Yeah.
T-shirts, but I had about 50 of them made into a coat of many colors, all sewn together in a sort of patchwork as a way of not completely parting with them.
Yeah.
My my earliest T-shirt is from the Surrey days, their 150th, which I think would have been in the late 70s. It's just hanging together and no more, but it's part of my hash history, so it's staying with me.
Very cool. I got to get this one question recorded. Is the RA always right?
Of course, unless they're wrong. Yeah. No, the RA is always right. Yeah, yeah. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story is the other expression.
I'm going to track down Blind Doug. I think there's 100 hashers.
Yeah, yeah.
Some that never left Scotland.
Yeah.
It would be great to, but have
Yeah.
hashed for so long and know so many people come through there. So,
Yeah.
when I publish your interview, maybe some of the people never heard of this podcast will listen to it and then they'll say, what rubbish. I'll do mine. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll correct him where he's wrong. Yeah. I'll mention to Blind Doug that he needs to start getting his warming up,
Yeah.
getting his story straight.
Yeah. I did a limerick.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, he's
At
another.
at the end of season 1, they ended up being like 4 episodes. And the first time I started talking to him, I should have recorded. He said, "Don't record this. I don't want you to record."
So I talked to him the other night. He calls me around midnight sometimes when he's the only one up and talks
Yeah.
rubbish. And I don't always have the ability to record those, but I think I should just have a whole Olympic podcast of the nonsense that
Yes. Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
told.
Well, I
Well, we
should
have lots of friends in common, even though
yeah.
I'm trying to think where we may have hashed together.
Yeah.
You weren't at Speyside, UK Nash Hash, were you?
No, I did the Perth. There was one in Scone, Perth, Scotland. That was
Okay.
the UK, and we had one in Kelso just
Yeah,
pre-COVID.
I haven't been back. I went to the one on the river at the rowing place. That was maybe a Euro. Was that a Euro hash?
I laid a trail for the last
Kingston.
Eurohash. Kingston on
Oh,
Thames.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, were you just at the castle?
No, I did the 2 Eurohashes, the 3 Eurohashes I've done with Krakow, the one on the boat here in Scotland, where I was actually here for one of the big long runs, went past Rosslyn Chapel, and so it was very appealing to the tourists. I did the Brussels one was that 2004?
2014.
14,
That
yeah.
special event or the
Yes.
the
Yeah, I
official?
did that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I was there. I was there. Yeah.
Okay, that's probably where we did then meet. Yes, Audrey, you know from Glasgow, don't you? Yeah. And have you what's he called? Hughie Blar. Have you that name ring a bell?
It does,
No.
but
Apparently, Big Mac. There's another Big Mac in the. I know of at least one who's Norwegian, but according to Hughie Blar, the Glasgow hash was founded by me. I'm not actually aware of this, but he attributes it to me. Who am I to argue with him?
I think Aberdeen may have been founded by the guy who founded Cairo,
Ah, okay.
because I think that's the heritage. Let's see. When I was in Cairo, his son came to the hash and found out his dad was back and still around. So we got him back out around the 1000th hash, and he started coming back out and hashing again. It was cool. But I think he went from KL to Cairo, started the hash there. So it's a first descendant of KL. Then he went to Aberdeen. So that's a little connection through Cairo that Olympic always brings up.
Yeah.
I think who else tuna melt and Opie was quite a long one, and they were drinking, and that was fun.
They were. I did the Belfast, the Irish Nash hash a few weeks ago, because of course it was Cockatool who got me into helping him out for the Euro hash, and then he wanted me to hear for the Irish Nash hash as well, which I did. But that's where I first met Opie and Tuna Melt. But that was after we'd implemented Harrier Central here, which I did for the Newtown hash. I did that implementation. Crotch Thumper, is it? Yeah, that's like, okay. She
Crotch Thumper she stayed with us last summer. I don't know where she was. She was driving across the US and up into Canada, but I know her really well. I see her at a lot of events.
Yeah, she had a TNT t-shirt that I apparently gave her. I didn't recall that. But
do you have a patch from her?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. If she stays with you, she gives you a patch.
Yeah, we were going around putting, she gave us some stickers to put in strategically in the accommodation we were staying in. You probably know the thing.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Here in Edinburgh, we have a tradition of doing a Christmas Day and a New Year's Day run. And just a minute, my wife wants to ask me a question. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, yes. My wife
is she gonna poke her face in here? At least
she's had her hair done, so she's presentable. Yeah.
So, when was your first hash?
Was it in Surrey?
Oh yeah, you were on
75 or 76 or something. Yep.
Well, do you want to do a whole interview just of your version of events?
No, because that would be very short.
She retired young. After Santiago, you stopped hashing, basically.
The last place I hashed, I think, was Dhaka, Bangladesh. Yeah. I used to do a few of those, but I had too many other things I wanted to do.
Okay.
She's a patchwork in Quinto.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I wanted to talk with you about. I'll cut all this out, a lot of this. But I learned to Scottish dance in Cairo. Because the British Embassy was the only place that had anything to drink but Stella. So we could get on a canned draft Boddington and Guinness, but you only could get in if you weren't British, if you went to Scottish dancing. So I provided a male anatomy to be a partner. And I went for years.
My wife and I, we taught Scottish country dancing around the world as well because of my other hat as the chieftain. But And then in Dhaka, there wasn't much to do. We had the Caledonian Ball and then
Burn
Burns,
supper.
right? Yeah, burn supper. But the Australian embassy used to do a thing called the Diarrhea Ball and the Glitter Ball. That's right. But it was known affectionately as the Diarrhea Ball.
No, the
Oh.
glitter ball was different.
Okay.
The diarrhea ball.
Okay, that's right. She's right. There was two. The Glitter Ball. And the Glitter Ball was a night of debauchery, basically. But you were invited to put on a skit. And the hash was always up for that. And web fart, I assume. That's
Yeah.
So he was, of course, always the guy who wanted to stage manage this. So we did a few skits there. One year we went as flamenco dancers. The next year we did a whole Star Trek takeoff. And there was a third one, Egyptians. Yeah, walking like an Egyptian. Yeah, we did that. But we never won as the hash because we were always too politically incorrect.
Yeah, we had a similar thing with the Nile raft race the rugby club put on. And we'd often won best costume.
Yeah.
I'd be the one male with the women's raft. But skits, yeah, sometimes we'd have somebody who got the humor and we'd have a shot at it. But yeah, that heyday of expat life in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Everywhere, and it lived, it was just some of the best time in the century. Yeah.
That really was. Yeah, we had done. Yeah. Yeah, it became very different with the advent of email and internet and so on, because suddenly the head office could actually interfere, see what was going on.
Yeah, it could be informed. The bankrupt had to leave Hungary with the Brexit too.
Yeah, I didn't realize he'd left with Brexit. I was a bit curious as to why he ended up there, because he had no connection to Hungary, because he was in, where is it, one of the
St. Kitts and Nevis.
St. Kitts and Nevis, wasn't he? Yeah.
That's where he is now.
Yeah, but is he not somewhere? Because I know he's remarried the Queen, I think, or what, the Queen of the Caribbean.
I thought he was back in St. Nevis, but maybe it's another island.
It's another island. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's certainly not. It's not that. But I guess his first wife died. We knew her. She was a very good Indonesian cook.
Lily.
Yeah, Lily. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew them really well because Cairo.
They were at my 50th birthday party in Dhaka, and she did some cooking.
Oh yeah, she was very nice.
Yeah,
I've interviewed him. He's on here too.
Okay.
He made it back there, and then I asked him why he left. And I know he was posting about I don't think he could get a visa.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was a limitation of his passport. Yeah. So he seemed pretty happy where he is now.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, I'll let you go. Thanks for all your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, I'll get Blind Doug lined up. I'm sure he's got a lot to tell.
I was doing one of the multiple a week for the first season, and then I tried to do one a week. I took August off, and I got busy with some other stuff. I'm gonna ramp up again and try to do at least 50 or more in next year. It's things like this. Once more people hear the Elgin folks. I met them. Where did I meet them? The couple who run the Elgin Hash.
Yeah, she's American. He's a dentist. What's his name? Oh,
no, it's a different. They traveled through Canada for about 3 months last summer. Big guy, a little blonde woman.
Oh, okay. No, it's not the one I'm thinking of then. Okay.
There's only about 20 of them, right? In the Elgin Hash.
Yeah, they just had an anniversary run, I think. Yeah.
I don't know why I can't get them. I don't know if they're moving around too much or something, but if you see them, once they hear it, that'll push them too.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. I'll let you go. Thank you very much.
Okay. Take care. All the best.
Close the circle. Here's the Hash Anthem sung by Mother Hash.
Sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home.
On